So what are a few intangible or things you can't put your finger on that make this, the M1 MacBook Air base model, the best-selling MacBook that they make right now, the M1 MacBook Air? Let's get into it. All right, welcome back to the channel. So what I'm gonna do is quickly go through all the specs that are gonna be built into this thing that make this the best-selling laptop from Apple. And this is the M1 MacBook Air base model, 8 gigs of RAM, 256 gig hard drive. This is the best-selling laptop in Apple's lineup, and there's reasons for it, but I'm gonna go through not only the basic specs, which I'm gonna do quickly, but I'm gonna give 5 basically intangible reasons, or reasons you can't really put your finger on. They're not in the spec sheet, but the reasons why I love it and reasons why a lot of people buy this system. So I call it intangible type stuff, but and stay tuned for that, because the last ones are going to be the 5 that are completely different. Most YouTubers aren't going to be talking about this. They're not going to be going through the basic specs and stuff. These are the things you can't really put your finger on, but they're the reason you buy this laptop. So we'll get into that in a second. So without further ado, let's go through first let's go through all the things that this thing does great. All right, really quickly, number 1, price. It's the lowest priced, obviously. That's one of the reasons, obviously. With the student discount, it's even cheaper. I got mine for $780 at Best Buy like a year ago. Again, when the M2 MacBook Air comes out, these things are going to drop again into the 800s, maybe high 700s. It's a steal at that price. The best laptop you can buy at that price, hands down. So price is number 1. It does it great. Number 2 is going to be basically, if you look at this, it's going to be performance. The M1 MacBook Air is good for coders, good for people in school, good for basic video editors like me. I do all my videos on something like this. So, 90 to 95% of people won't even notice the difference, I'm guessing, between the M2 MacBook Air that comes out soon and the M1. So in 2022, this is plenty of power for school and basic people at work and stuff. So no problems there. It does it really well. All right, number 3 is going to be the keyboard, best in class. It's a keyboard that you actually want to type on. So for schoolwork, there's tons of Windows things out there. I know Lenovo has some good keyboards and stuff like that, but overall, this is the best in class for the money, probably best in class out of any laptop out there. And it's just something that's very pleasurable to type on. It doesn't get, fatiguing and stuff. So if you do a lot of paperwork at school and stuff, this is a great laptop. Trackpad too. Trackpad is best in class. There's not one Windows one better. If it is, send it to me in the links. I want to know what it is. Best trackpad, best keyboard for the money, probably overall also. All right, microphone, great microphone on this thing. Perfect. The audio quality is really good, so you can't complain with that if you want to do dictation and stuff like that. The webcam can be a little bit better. I'm not going to go through that, but at 720, it's going to, it can definitely get better on it, but it's good enough for most people in video calls, so you get a good package there as well. All right, the screen. For the money, again, it's the best screen in the class. So you're talking, obviously a lot higher than 1080p. It's way higher than that. You're talking perfect color, as far as nits, 400 nits of brightness, plenty of brightness. You can see it here. So overall, it's just a laptop that you enjoy to use. The screen never gives you any problems. Viewing angles are perfect. So again, for the cost, for under that $1,000 price, number 1 you can buy right now, the M1 MacBook Air in 2022. And then battery, again, I'm not going to get into much of this. I get between 10 and maybe 15 hours. Some people claim 18 hours. I'm more in the 10 to 12 hours because I do video editing and I do some more tasks on it. But overall, it's still better than any other Windows laptop out there. So if you're looking for school or for work and stuff, you can't you can't complain because you can't find anything better than the MacBook Air M1. MacBook Pro maybe has an hour or 2 extra, they claim, but they're very close. Then finally, with the things that are on the spec sheet is going to be the build quality. Obviously everyone says aluminum design, just a really high quality build quality, feels good in the hand. There's no gaps in the design and stuff like that. So again, overall for the money, you're going to get the best laptop. Now, with all that said, I wanted to get through that quickly. What are the intangible things that you get with this laptop? I'm going to give you 5 of them, and they're things that you would never guess, probably. They're also things that most people don't even, there's probably no YouTube videos on this, because they're things that just made me want to buy it or made me want to keep this versus going with something else, buying a Windows laptop or something. So let me get into the 5 intangible things, and these are the ones you're waiting for. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right, number 1, again, is the shape, and let me explain. So I'm going to show you kind of some pictures here of it next to the MacBook Pro, and then the new, obviously the new MacBook Air, the M2 MacBook Air coming out in 2022 is going to have kind of that same MacBook Pro shape. It's more of a square shape. This is more of a wedge shape. So the M1 MacBook Air, I'm kind of sad to see it going away with the new MacBook Air. This is more of a wedge shape, and you can type on it very easily without the metal cutting into your wrists. I've noticed with the MacBook Pro and then also the 14 and 16 inch, you get kind of marks on your wrists here. This is a very comfortable keyboard when you're typing. I think it's the most comfortable that they make, Apple, and it's a reason why a lot of people use this for schoolwork and stuff. So it's not really in the spec sheet, but it's the wedge shape design is number one. All right, number two is a huge one. So number two is going to be performance on batteries. So let me explain. Any Windows laptop that you actually take off battery, the screen dims, I mean, there's a setting for that, but the processor slows down. You get performance hiccups all the time on them, and I don't think there's one Windows laptop that does it even close to what this can do. So on the MacBook Air, you basically, take it off, and it's on battery right now. I do video editing, go to the coffee shop, do whatever you want to do on it. You're going to lose no power. It's going to be the exact same amount, same power system as you do when it's plugged in. You notice no difference at all. At least I don't notice even a hiccup at all. So overall, the experience there is huge because you're not afraid to take it off the plug. You can use it on battery, and you're getting the exact same powerful M1 chip as you would as if it was plugged in. Number three is just, it loads within seconds, or you open it up and it's there. So when I have two different laptops, I have a number of laptops because I do reviews, and I have a Windows laptop and I have my MacBook Air M1 base model sitting next to each other, and I need to look something up really quickly. I always choose the M1 MacBook Air because I can open it up, hit the fingerprint reader, and it opens up in just 3 seconds, 4 seconds. It's up and running instantly. There's no lag, no waiting. I can open up a browser in 2 seconds. With Windows, sometimes you have to wait. Sometimes in Windows you have like a half-hour wait because you have to do updates, and it just sits there and lags, and you hate that, right? You don't get that with this. This just opens up instantaneous. You're not waiting for updates. That does it behind the scenes at night. You're all set. I mean, it's something that is just, again, I can't put my finger on it, but it's basically the one I choose when I have a Windows laptop and this laptop next to each other. I need something quickly. I always pick this one. All right, number four. I've had this about a year, and all my Windows laptops seem to get slowed down, or they get junk on them, or they get programs, applications, and they slow down. This one never does. It seems to be as fresh as it was on day one. Again, I can't put a performance number on that. There's not really a good way to measure that. I can just tell you from my experience and from using it, it's something that I just noticed. I don't know what it is, but it's very snappy now as it was on day one. I'm guessing if you start filling up, I don't fill up the hard drive to the very end. I use something, that's a negative, obviously. I use something like this. I have a video on this little hard drive. You can see it here. Check out that video. But I always use external storage for a lot of stuff, and I put just my primary stuff on here. I also, obviously, the ports people will argue are negative, but I mean, I have a hub, so you get what you get. But overall, it's that's a huge plus when things just don't slow down ever. They just seem snappy. Even many years, down the line, they still seem snappy. And then finally, my fifth kind of intangible, thing that most people don't put on spec sheets. And again, I actually had a whole video on this, so check out my prior channel. I have, I think, 400 or 500 videos on a lot of Apple stuff. But it's going to be the no fans. So again, a lot of people are going to say, well, that's not really a spec. It's going to be a little bit slower than the MacBook Pro, things like that. But I just can't put my finger on how to even define this. But when I pick it up and I have it on my lap and I'm watching TV in bed or something, or I'm next to my wife or whatever, the sound of it and the quietness of it is very soothing. If you're listening to something with the speakers, which are great, mind you, I didn't mention the speakers. The speakers are some of the best speakers in the class, obviously. I forgot that one. But the speakers are great, but you don't have that whining or the noise of the fan. And it gives you kind of a soothing feeling, especially at nighttime watching a movie. You don't get the noise over the movie, or you don't bug someone that's sleeping next to you. So overall, it doesn't get hot either, unless you're doing like really high-end video editing. So overall, that's a huge plus. And that's my fifth kind of intangible thing that a lot of people don't put on spec sheets, and a reason you should pick this up. And once you use it and know what I mean with no fans, you're going to know what I mean, and trust me, you will. All right, so let's wrap this up. The intangible I went through, and overall, it's just a great system. I think that with the price drop here, most people aren't going to notice a difference at all between the M2 MacBook Air and the M1. I mean, I think most people, will have no idea what the difference is if you just put a monitor in front of them and had them hooked up to two different systems. They're not going to notice the difference. So if you can pick this thing up for in the 800s, in this year or even 2023, do it, because it's going to be a way better and more cost-effective system than trying to go with some of the new stuff right away. Let the bugs get worked out in the new stuff. stuff. I mean, the new design on the MacBook Air M2 could have some issues, and things, who knows what's going to come up. They always have kind of issues that pop up here and there. So wait a little while. Pick one of these up. It's going to have a high good resale value on it. And that's kind of what this video is all about, just helping people. Check this out. Intangible things are important, most important to me actually, more than specs, because it's the experience that counts. We'll talk to everybody soon. Peace.